Here are 6 reasons why Andrew Wiggins is having a breakout season and finally redeeming himself as the number 1 pick. His bounce back season has been extraordinary, considering that we kind of expected Wiggins to just plateau throughout the rest of his career. We've seen Andrew Wiggins tempt us with the way that he's played. His talent was obviously there entering the league, as he was the number 1 pick selected by the Cleveland Cavaliers. Obviously that was the season LeBron decided to return there, so they traded him off to a Minnesota Timberwolves team in return for Kevin Love. And the future looked bright for both Minnesota and for Cleveland. Cleveland finally had another all-star to pair up with Kyrie and LeBron, and the Minnesota Timberwolves had their young future in Zach LaVine, Andrew Wiggins, and eventually Karl Anthony Towns. They even had Chris Dunn, who was actually a top 10 pick as well, so their young core looked bright. Unfortunately, when they traded LaVine, it all kind of went downhill from there. In this video, we're going to look at 6 reasons as to why there's been a massive improvement compared to last year, and let's break it down. With that said, if you enjoy these types of videos and you're new around here, be sure to hit that subscribe button for more NBA content every single week. Let's see if we can reach 1,000 likes for the next video, and let me know what you think about Andrew Wiggins this season so far. Do you think he can keep it up? I actually really want to hear from you guys, because I honestly don't know if he can keep this play up, but I do think he'll be a better player than he was last year. But with that said, let's break it down. Number 6. Jimmy Butler is off the team. As a Heat fan, Jimmy Butler has been amazing for us. He's been a good leader, he's been a clutch player, he's been a guy that is actually really used in facilitating the ball rather than scoring for the Miami Heat. He's a guy that's been a great player for the Heat. But when you look at the Timberwolves and his time there, he probably wasn't the best fit. He was a great defender, but you could tell that he took some shots away from Andrew Wiggins. And obviously when all the stories came out, it seemed like he was a bit too hard of a leader on Andrew Wiggins and on Karl Anthony Towns. Even if they denied the rumors, there was a whole lot of controversy going on at the time, which is why he was sent to the Philadelphia 76ers. And in an interview this offseason, Andrew Wiggins attempted to pinpoint why his development seemed to have slowed down in recent seasons. After reviewing his answer, it may appear that he believes his former teammate Jimmy Butler is to blame. And it wasn't only Jimmy Butler, it was also a mixture of Tom Thibodeau, but it was basically the hard style of coaching and mentoring that Wiggins obviously didn't like. He didn't like the way that Jimmy Butler was hard on him, and he also didn't like Tom Thibodeau yelling at him. And this is what he had to say about it.
So our audience, from a basketball perspective, our audience knows that I've been really hard on you for 4 years. You know, for people like me that have been critical, saying, "Hey, Andrew could be this. He's not at the level." Is that fair? And what do you say to people like me or critics that have followed you the last 2 years?
I can get better. You know, there's always room for improvement. I feel like my first 3 years, I was on the rise, getting better and better. And then as changes were made, I feel like there was a little decline. You know, but I worked really hard this summer, and I'm as confident as I was, you know, when I first came in the league.
Andrew, what type of a coach is Ryan Saunders, and how do you react best to coaching?
He's a player's coach, you know, for sure. Has a great energy about him, you know, and I feel like a lot of guys can relate because he's not too much older than us, you know, and I feel like he gets us. He understands us, and he tries to put us in the environment that we're most comfortable in. But what kind of stuff that I react to as a player, from a coach, I would say just talking, being real. You know, all that yelling and stuff is not, I feel like it's not really going to change my mood. But when a coach comes at me and is real and tells me the real, and I feel like I respect that a lot more than anyone just yelling. I feel like anyone can yell, anyone can raise their voice, but not a lot of people can be real. So that goes a long way for me.
Wiggins' comments about all of the yelling and stuff most likely pertain to Tom Thibodeau. But what he said previously about changes being made, I think that was directed at Jimmy Butler. Considering that a lot of changes were made, Wiggins had to change his style of play. Wiggins obviously had to give up a lot of shots, considering the years prior he was the main focus. So obviously, yeah, there were changes made. And that's been obviously clear to see. In the 2016-17 seasons, Wiggins averaged 19 field goal attempts per game. Then there was a dramatic drop down to 15.9 when Jimmy Butler got there, and then 16.6 last season. This year, it's risen all the way up to 21 field goal attempts per game, which is obviously the highest of his career. And he's actually shooting them at a pretty high percentage as well. A shooting percentage of 46%, which is the highest of his career. Obviously, as an NBA player, Andrew Wiggins was not going to name names about what was happening, but you can kind of tell with all the saga going on last year in Minnesota that he was pertaining to Tom Thibodeau and to Jimmy Butler, and it's fair enough. And obviously, he's playing better without both of them, so shout out to Wiggins. At number 5, Andrew Wiggins has matured up. Wiggins is in his 6th season. He entered the league at just 19 years old, and sometimes it does take players a little longer to develop in the league. And maybe one of those players was Andrew Wiggins, because he's only 24 years old, which is still pretty young, and sometimes we just don't think about that. He came in with potential, and he actually played well for the first 2 seasons, but he just couldn't maintain that, and I think it's maybe his maturing up that has actually brought him to a better place. Over the last few seasons, with a lot of criticism going towards him, he's been able to reflect and mature up, and I think that's helped him in this year. Number 4, his style of play. Andrew Wiggins has been able to turn long 2s into 3s, which has really helped him develop as a player and made him more of an efficient player overall. Something this year has obviously clicked with Wiggins. It's his 6th NBA season, and over the first 11 games, he's come out like a man on a mission to reclaim his title as what was seen as a future potential All-Star. He's averaging nearly 26 points per game, including scoring 30 or more points in 4 of his past 5 contests, to go with career best numbers in assists per game, rebounds per game, and true shooting percentages. Still, he's only 24 years old. Is Wiggins just figuring this out, or has something else happened? Wiggins is one of 17 players this season with a true shooting percentage of at least 56% and a usage rate of at least 28%, joining an elite offensive list with names like James Harden, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Damian Lillard, which is pretty staggering, but at the same time, Wiggins came into the league with high potential and as a scorer. In addition, Wiggins also has the lowest turnover rate of anybody on that list, which shows that he's actually been able to develop his game, not necessarily on the offensive side, but also being able to handle the ball and being able to facilitate at a high efficiency too, without turning the ball over. At number 3, Andrew Wiggins and his new head coach. Ryan Saunders, obviously the son of great Flip Saunders, has brought a new style to Minnesota. Wiggins has definitely brought into Saunders' spacing system, especially consider that Tom Thibodeau is off the team now. The Wolves look way different, and Saunders' system has definitely worked to Andrew Wiggins' advantage this season, in that it has created chances for him to drive to the basket, which is obviously one of his biggest strengths. He's been able to use his quickness and athleticism to get him to the basket, which has obviously been the main attribute as to why he's been playing so well this season. He's obviously playing to his strengths, and as well changed his game a little bit too. Ryan Saunders has obviously implemented many opportunities for Andrew Wiggins to drive to the basket, obviously which is one of his biggest strengths in previous seasons, but this time with a big, normally Karl-Anthony Towns on the perimeter, there's plenty of space available for Wiggins to operate in the paint, because Karl-Anthony Towns has actually become more of a 3-point threat this season. Him being out on the perimeter means obviously more space for Wiggins to drive in, and it's also opened up a lot of opportunities for Karl-Anthony Towns, who has also played really well this year too. At number 2, the position change. Obviously, Andrew Wiggins is still small forward, but at times he kind of looks like a tall point guard. Wiggins is actually running a pretty different style of offense to previously. We've seen him play a little bit of point guard for a little bit, but him being turned into more of a point forward at times has not only helped him, but has also helped the Minnesota Timberwolves as a whole. The team and his assist numbers have risen to a new level due to him playing as a point forward. Nevertheless, he's playing better, and so are his teammates, which has been a positive sign so far in the 2019-2020 NBA season. And number 1, the noise and the media surrounding him. I think Wiggins has just kind of realized that he needs to start performing. Obviously, he was one of the most criticized players over the last few seasons simply due to the fact that he was not playing like a first overall pick, not playing like a guy on a huge 5-year contract. He was playing like a mediocre small forward who didn't really shoot the ball well. He was not a great defender, even though he does have the physical attributes to be a good defender. He was just a player, which is why the Minnesota Timberwolves were also an average team. When you get average players on teams, they turn out to be average teams. Karl-Anthony Towns was a good player, but he couldn't do it by himself. Now we've seen the rise of Andrew Wiggins, and we've also seen the rise of the Minnesota Timberwolves as a team. They're playing a lot better, they're playing in unity, and they're looking like a team that could definitely make the playoffs if they keep it up, and Andrew Wiggins still plays to his best ability. But on the flip side, we have seen Andrew Wiggins do this before and decrease as the season went on. Andrew Wiggins in the 2016-17 season averaged 27.4 points per game, with 49, 52, and 75 splits over the first 11 games of the season. He was thriving, he was doing very, very well, and then he just crashed and didn't ever recover. He just became an average player in the 2016-17 season. At the end of the day, Andrew Wiggins is getting paid as someone who is an all-star. $146.5 million extension in the 2017 season. Those expectations were high. He was seen as an all-star. During this phase, he was projected to be an all-star. He hasn't become that, but this start of the season has given us hope. If he continues playing like this throughout the rest of his career, he could be seen as a multiple-time all-star. A guy that can actually be a dynamic duo next to Karl Anthony Towns. The Jimmy Butler experiment obviously wasn't great for the Minnesota Timberwolves, and it obviously had a slight decrease in Andrew Wiggins' development. But it's good to see that a guy that averaged 18 points last season to 26 points this season, and also a guy that's increased his playmaking ability and field goal percentage, it's just a good step in the right direction. So let me know what you think. Do you think Andrew Wiggins has had his bounce back season, and do you think he can keep this up? Or do you think this is just a fluke and he won't keep it up? Let me know what you think down below. If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Leave a like if you're new. Let's see if we can reach 1,000 likes for the next video. Be sure to hit the notification button and follow me on Instagram. With that said, it's been your boy Nick Smith. I am out. Peace.